You just practiced using a GPS and taking photo points. A GPS provides us with the spatial area of our work. Photo points provide us with visual data. Often, though, it is important to collect more in-depth data to help determine if our restoration methods are working. This further in-depth monitoring is referred to as ecological sampling. In your handbook, metrics 2 through 6 refer to ecological sampling techniques. Think back to the Candyland activity you practiced this morning. Here, you are practicing ecological sampling by determining abundance and distribution. Each color of candy represented a specific species. This video will show you how to identify vegetation in the same way you did candy. Today, we will cover ground percent cover using a belt, transect, and quadrats. This is a combination of metric 2.2 and metric 4.2 in the handbook. Here is the data sheet you will use for ground percent cover. Fill out its top portions when you arrive at the site to do monitoring for the day. Under data collection, the quadrat size we will use is 0.5 meters by 0.5 meters. We will not be practicing canopy cover, metric 4.3, or basal area, metric 4.2 today. You can see where these items are found on the worksheet though. Instead, we can jump down to the quadrat information section. This video will explain in depth how to fill this portion of the datasheet out. The first step in a belt transect is laying out the tape measure. Use a PVC pole to mark your starting point. Have your leader or staff member pull up the dioptra or theodolite camera application on their phone to find due north. Once centered, another member should walk over with the measuring tape. Have the person at the PVC pole hold the end of the tape. You can have a separate person than the one holding the camera to make this easier. The person holding the tape should walk out 23.5 feet. The person with the camera app should guide them along the due north line. When aligned, place the tape down, making sure it is not hung up on anything. Next, place a quadrat square on the side of the transect line. Use a GPS to mark a waypoint of the quadrat square and name it accordingly. Pull out your data sheet and look at the ground cover section. This will be quadrat 1. Down the row, you will see several columns. These columns refer to vegetation classifications. Use your classification cheat sheet to help you determine these in the field. Bare ground is simply rock, dirt, or sand. Dead organic material, or dead OM, refers to dead leaves, pine straw, or branches. Grass is any herbaceous plant with narrow leaves growing vertically up from the ground. Forbs are flowering plants as well as ferns. Vines have a continuous stem with leaves. These tend to have thorns and also grow in spirals. Woody plants have hard stems and survive through winter. Moss is a non-vascular and will have clump-like spores. On your datasheet, there are also categories for other. Other could refer to fungus, litter, pavement, etc. Make sure to note what your other stands for. Before we start, remember to consider everything inside the quadrat equal to 100%. Therefore, our classification categories need to all add up to 100. For example, you may have 20% bare ground, 30% dead organic matter, and 50% grass, and no other categories. Let's practice together. First, we will look for bare ground. See how I am pointing to these sandy, bare areas? What percentage do you think that is? To keep things simple, we will stick to increments of 5. For bare ground, let's go with 15%. Next, we need to estimate percentage of dead organic matter. Again, this could be dead leaves, branches, pine straw. This example has a fair amount of pine straw covering the square, so we're going to go with 40%. Let's stop and add up. 15 plus 40 equals 55. So we now have 45 left to distribute. The rest of the categories are easier to mix up, so take your time and get hands-on with the vegetation. Remember, you have your cheat sheet for reference as well. We are all not educated in botany, so it's okay to be wrong. Just try your best. Beginning with grass, I am pulling at any blade-like plants. Remember, grass will be vertical and thin. Here, we roughly have 10%. Our next category is forb. I immediately noticed some forbs in our quadrat due to a nearby flowering plant. Although the flowers are not inside the quadrat, we can use context clues to decide what plants are in the quadrat. There are a lot of species here, so it is good practice to touch all the stems. For instance, I can tell the largest plant here is woody by grabbing it. So we have woody and forbed in here. Take your time looking underneath plants to check for any other categories such as vines or moss. Here, we only have 35% left to split between the woody and forb. Seeing there is a bit more of the flowering plants, we're going to go with 20% for forb. That leaves 15% for woody. Before marking this, let's check one more time to make sure we did not miss any other classifications. Nope, just one large and one small woody plant left in this corner, which will account for our missing 15%. Another great tip is imagining smushing that plant into that corner to really see that amount. Lastly, always double check that your estimate adds up to 100%. 15 plus 40 is 55. 55 plus 10 is 65. 65 plus 20 is 85. And finally, 85 plus 15 is 100. A picture always provides us with a way to double check ourselves, so make sure to take a photo of the plot. You can use your regular camera for this, or the camera application, Dioptra or Theodolite, mentioned before. Just remember to name the image either way. Here, I also took a picture of the forb that had flowers blooming to help me remember why I identified certain species as forb inside the quadrat. In your notes section on your data sheet, make sure to note you took these photos and what they were of. It is also good practice to put what you named them as well. Now it is time to put what you learned to practice. It may be useful to set up the transect and quadrats like this image and pair members up. Or you can all work as a team on each quadrat. Remember, this technique is subjective, so it's okay to not agree, but make sure to come to an educated consensus. Good luck, crews!